calling it kind of a guidebook for progressive grown-ups. So that's educators, it's teachers, librarians, parents, anyone with a young person in their life, essentially, who wants to bring up kids in queer affirming, queer positive spaces, but doesn't know how. And I think that that's a lot of grown-ups, really. Even if you're, you know, a queer grown-up yourself, even if you're consider yourself an ally, none of us really grew up in queer affirming spaces. I think there are very, very few people who really did grow up in queer affirming environments. And that's because the world that we live in doesn't center or cater to queer people. And so what I'm trying to do is give these kind of progressive grown-ups with kids in their lives a guide, really, for how to talk about gender, how to center queerness in their lives and in their environments, how to talk about sexuality with young people, how to talk about identity as a whole, so like race, class, privilege, intersectionality, so talking about how all of our different identities you know, help us kind of like guide us through the world and how we interact with the world and are perceived by the world. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of like age relevant sex ed, so consent and bodies, and what else? There's like a bunch of chapters on activism and camaraderie versus allyship, so being a comrade, and a little bit of like LGBT history, which hopefully we'll kind of get those conversations started. So yeah, it's really like a conversation guidebook with lots of resources and information, and just really helping parents who are nervous about kind of how to enact and go through conversations that they might not have their own perspective on. So it's really just kind of easing people in and helping.
I love it.
Hopefully it's going to be good.
Yeah, oh, it's definitely
it's a little messy right now.
That's okay. It's definitely going to be good. That's what I try to do with World Changing Kids as well, is kind of help parents start these conversations. And me, I have less experience in all of these topics than you do, but I can share you. I can say, hey, here is something, you know, go check out this website, this YouTube channel, go listen to Lindz, and they're going to help you. So I like to call it conversation starters.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Little tidbits of like, here's how you can have this conversation. And I have to say, so I've been doing this more like this kind of format since the pandemic started. You were one of our first guests back last June.
Yeah.
And the kids have just exceeded my expectations. Every conversation we have, they are engaged and they get it and they care and they want more of this. So yeah, what you're doing is going to be awesome. I can't wait to buy the book.
So what's the title of the book going to be? And if you don't know, what are some options, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I, on my proposal, I had a title. And so right now the title is The Radical Notion of Queer Joy, which I like, but I don't think the publisher likes that title. So I think they're probably gonna test a couple of different options. We haven't really talked about that yet. I think they probably want me to write it first before we start putting an official title on it. But I have like a little running list of my own that I'll probably put in the mix. I'm sure that the people at the publishing house will also have a lot of ideas based on what the book ends up being. But a couple of different options are like learning your LGBTs and conversation starters for progressive grown-ups, things like that. So just yeah, I like my title, but I think that something that's going to be a little more catchy on the shelves and, you know, is
well, you'd also want
to pick up. Yeah,
it to be like words people would Google.
Yeah, things people would Google, things that like, you know, when you see a book that like you really want and you go to the bookstore, I think that like you can really like feel what it's going to be like when you look at the title. And so that's kind of what we're going to be going for when we pick the official title. And I think the title that I have right now, I like it, but I think it's maybe like a lot of words that people maybe don't know. So we want it to be a little bit more like accessible, so that like a lot of different parents are going to want to pick it up, even if they don't know what like queer joy is or like what something radical is, you know. So we're really trying to be really easy for people to read and easy for something for people to pick up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hazel, before you jump to your second, can I jump in?
Yeah.
So from your TED Talk, Lindz, one of the notes I did write down is that you're choosing radical queer joy. And I thought those were beautiful words. So
thank you.
I'm putting a vote in for like those, but I mean, maybe maybe I'm the target market that isn't everyone. I don't know. But yeah, I love that. I love the concept, because you kind of said in your TED Talk that, despite the hate that you receive and the, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the abuse that you receive for trying to spread this message, you're choosing radical queer joy. And I thought that's like everything. To me, that's everything you do right there in like how many words that is. So
yeah, I think so too. We'll see how what the publishers say.
and then, I'm not the best at making the business decisions and doing what would actually make you money as opposed to just what I want to do in my heart. So you don't listen to me, but like, people need to know that phrase, and maybe you're the one who's gonna introduce it and make it commonplace. So
yeah, I mean, it's all over the text, so even if it's not the title, it's in there.
Yeah, I love it.